of music, but I knew by the laws of physics and simple measurements that it was impossible for my right leg to stretch far enough to hook my foot under the base of the seat in front of me, or for the metatarsal bones in my foot to counterbalance the total weight of two men hanging out of the back of an 8-door Dodge bus. Fortunately for us, Isaac Newton had never factored adrenaline into any of his equations. Suddenly I was being hoisted back into the bus by the confident arms of two trombonists, Danny Hodges and Harry Wydell, second and third chair respectively. They were well suited to the task, pulling me as if gliding their slides from 7th position to 1st. I held steadily on to Frankie, who looked up at me like a dangling mountaineer who was fearful I'd cut his tether. With one good yank, I had him inside again. I bolted the hatch and observed that most of the band hadn't even noticed our small drama, except for Tommy Trago, our band boy and the one responsible for checking the bus's back door. His complexion was pale as milk glass as he averted his eyes from mine. I made a mental note that once we got to our hotel, I would have to tell him the story about how I once made the exact same mistake myself. I would have told Tommy the story then and there, but I hadn't invented it yet. "Jesus, you nearly killed yourself, Ray," said Frankie, brushing the road grit from his jacket. "I guess this makes you my hero." I wasn't a hero, his or anyone's. To be honest, I didn't even care that much about Frankie. It's just that nearly killing yourself for a fellow saxophonist is easy when you've been considering doing the same thing for no one in particular. Prior to September of 1940, I'd more than once soberly entertained committing the equivalent of what we musicians call a dal segno al coda, this being the written instruction in music that the player should abandon repeating what has gone before and leap forward to the end. Luckily, the woman I love, who's just in the next room as I write these words, and who, God help her, has agreed to review these pages when I finish my account of the innocent intrigue that became a personally harrowing mystery that revealed itself to be a deadly puzzle, has been able to help me make a most miraculous da capo, which, for those of us who play jazz, means take it again from the top. Chapter 2. The Claremont. Less than an hour before we were scheduled to play, our band bus groveled its way up the wooded hillside near the border of Oakland and Berkeley, upon which is enthroned the genially aristocratic Hotel Claremont. Usually when we had a hotel engagement, our band boy signed in for all of us, but a respectable dowager like the Claremont requires each member of the band to register for himself. We hated this, as the trip had left us exhausted, and we still faced a 4-hour set on the bandstand that evening, entertaining a thin Monday night crowd. The hotel's faultlessly tailored lobby had undergone many changes since I'd first played there in my teens, but all I was interested in was a quick wash-up in my room before heading to the ballroom. "Ray Sherwood?" inquired the desk clerk, looking at my entry in the hotel's registration ledger. He was a pleasant enough young man, although it was clear he had no close relatives who were dentists or cosmeticians. "That's me," I answered, and he advanced me a key attached to a copper tag, which on one side read, "The Claremont, Berkeley, California," below which was my room number. On the other side were the words, "If carried away, mail unsealed. Postage guaranteed." I tucked the key into my billfold, under the flap where I always keep my room key, until I inevitably find myself dropping it into a mailbox one city beyond the one I've just left. The front desk clerk was searching some cubbyholes behind him. "Sherwood, hold on, I believe there's yes, a young lady left this for you late this afternoon." He laid down an envelope bearing my name, which I opened. A letter written in a precise, angular hand began, "Dear Mr. Sherwood, I would be honored if you would meet with me to discuss a business proposal that I believe may be of interest to you. Rather than bore you with the details here, I am hoping to bore you in person tomorrow morning at 9:30, when I will try my utmost to weaken your resolve over a cup of excellent coffee. Since I make terrible coffee, could you meet me at the Café Lafayette at the Golden Gate Exposition on Treasure Island?" These last 6 words were as clear as cuneiform to me, but I figured someone at the hotel would be able to direct me to this destination. That is, if I decided to meet her at the heathen hour of 9:30, a jazzman's equivalent of the crack of dawn. "I'm performing in the Tower of the Sun at 10, her letter continued, still bewilderingly. "So if you can't make it, it will not be a hardship for me. However, time is of the essence, and it is important we meet as soon as possible. I am hoping my proposal will interest you, and if not, please know that 3 different underclassmen in the last month have told me that I am the cat's meow, pajamas, and whiskers in alphabetical order. I am sure they are just being polite, but perhaps you might want to form your own opinion. Be advised that if I don't see you tomorrow at the cafe, where I will know you by your photograph in Metronome magazine, I intend to track you down at the Claremont and lure you to your doom." The letter was signed Gail Prentice. Beneath her signature was a phone number with a Berkeley exchange. "You saw the girl who left this?" I asked the desk clerk. "I did, sir, yes," he said. I advanced him a $1 bill. "Tell me, if this girl had asked you to have breakfast with her, would you have said yes?" I smiled as if we were both men of the world. "No, sir, I should say not," he answered, covering the bill with his right sleeve and sliding it off the marble counter into his waiting left hand. "I've been engaged for the last 2 years to a manicurist from Walnut Creek who works here at the Claremont. I'm sure she wouldn't like me keeping company with an attractive young woman." He stressed the last 3 words and winked. "How young?" I asked. "Her 20s. "How far into them?" He shrugged. "She might be a little young for you." I leaned forward. "How old do you think I am?" He looked me over. I was disheveled from the long bus ride and could have used a shave. 34? 38. I enlightened him gratefully as I slipped him another bill. I hadn't had the pleasure of breakfasting with a woman in almost a year, and lately I'd been waking way too early. The dreams had come back. Keeping an intriguing appointment with an attractive young woman sounded like a much better way of enduring tomorrow morning than sitting in my room playing cribbage for one. Gail, we were on a first-name basis now, had said she'd be honored to meet with me. How unchivalrous it would be if I were to ignore such a simple and charming request. I tucked the letter into my breast pocket, picked up my suitcase, and headed toward the stairs. "What are you whistling about?" asked Raleigh Sabotin, who was crouched on the floor of the lobby and not at all happy about losing one of the wheels he'd strapped onto his bass fiddle case. I said I wasn't aware I'd been whistling. Chapter 3. The Terrace. On our second break that same evening, I went to the hotel's bank of coin telephones and tried calling the number Gail Prentice had given me. I was a little surprised when I got no answer. I suppose I'd pictured her breathlessly pacing by the phone. I wandered myself as inconspicuously as possible to the bar in the Claremont's Terrace Lounge. Finding a narrow vacancy alongside a woman who was dressed in turquoise, which was this season's shade of evening blue, I brushed against her indifferent back and said to the bartender, "Rum and coke, in the bottle." He appraised me. "You at the band?" "Tenor sax, second chair." I slipped a $5 bill alongside a small puddle of beer on the mahogany bar, and we now understood each other. "How much?" he asked. It was like ordering gasoline. $2 worth, I said. He raised a tufted eyebrow, opened a bottle of Coca-Cola, and wasted half its contents into the basin beneath him. He reached for the Bacardi, choosing the silver label from Puerto Rico, not the white label from Cuba. I was, after all, a musician, and carefully topped off the hobble-skirted Coke bottle. I took my bandstand stash with me out onto the Claremont's Fieldstone Terrace, and was surprised to see that the island of Atlantis, an impossibly Babylonian city whose iridescent walls gleamed in pastel shades of blue and pink, ornamented in gold and dull bronze, had chosen to arise in the middle of San Francisco.